Hello everyone, welcome back to the Language Club. Today we're talking about learning a language with video games, as the title says. You might think of games as just entertainment and you might be skeptical, but video games can be actually a very good tool in your language learning arsenal. I will explain why now. Let's just start right in. First, why video games? Video games are interactive, which engage you more than watching a show or watching a movie or hearing a podcast. Because in video games, you have to interact with things or persons. For example, in an RPG, someone will ask you to look for an item or look for a person. This engages you way more. If you don't do this task, oftentimes you won't be able to go on with the game. You have to listen very carefully, remember things, remember words. And if you have watched our previous video on Stephen Krashen's theory, then you will know that meaningful input is crucial for learning a language. So this is one of the most underrated media to learn a language. Video games engage you way more than textbook, with rich storylines, challenges. Especially if you have played it before, you already have context, so it will be easier to understand and learn a language at the same time. Let me tell you guys a story. In my school, I met a guy who was pretty bad at most subjects. He failed math, science, but he was extremely good at English. And did he study? No. What he did was he played video games a lot. He played games like Minecraft, Call of Duty. He also watched YouTubers that do gameplays like PewDiePie or Markiplier. And while he played, he talked to people online and he practiced his speaking and his listening as well. So he learned without learning pretty much, passively. This shows the power of this type of media. Now, of course, if you learned at the same time you played, you would learn much quicker, right? Now, how do you know which languages your game supports? Well, I will show you right now.
So let's look at any game, for example. Let's look at Red Dead Redemption 2. Here it will show you the languages that are available. In this case, the interface is available for all these languages and the subtitles, but the voice only for English. If we look at another game like Cyberpunk 2077, we will see that it has voices available in more languages, like German, French, or Italian.
There are specific Steam accounts that show you the games that are in a certain language. I found an account that had German games in it and another account that had games in Japanese. Another useful website is Steam Spy, in which you can filter out games by language. And you can also look for games on Reddit. People will often ask what games there are on a certain language. What type of games should you focus on? First, visual novels and RPGs. These games are full of dialogue and rich in storytelling. You will learn a lot of vocabulary with these games. Some personal recommendations for me are Danganronpa, Professor Layton series, and for RPGs, the Fallout series, and the Elder Scrolls series. I really like these games because you don't need to pause every time. You can just write down while the text is still there. Most RPGs and visual novels will have the text until you press a button, and when you press a button it will come out the next text, the next dialogue. And another tip is that you can talk to the same character twice. Let's say you haven't understood something that a character has said. You can talk to him again, and in some games they will say the same thing in other words, so that's even way more useful. Also, make sure you're writing down vocabulary when you are playing, in your Anki deck or in your notebook. Another type of games that is really useful is multiplayer games. In these types of games, you will have to communicate with real people. This will make you practice your speaking, your listening, and your writing, depending on the game. Some personal recommendations are the game Among Us, where you have to find out who the imposter is, and this requires a lot of communication. You have to say where you were, you have to ask the other people where they were and what they did. If you're playing in a community, you will also be able to talk to them by voice, and this is way better. Another type of games I like are co-op games. In games like Portal 2 or Don't Starve Together, you will have to cooperate to solve puzzles or beat the game. This involves a lot of back and forth communication, which is essential for language learning. Make sure your game has servers in your target language. This is why I like Among Us, because it has so many different languages. Also, if you meet someone while playing these video games, make sure to ask for their social media. You can then make a friend that is a native speaker of that foreign language. And afterwards, you can play with him, and the words that you don't know, he will translate. It's like a language teacher inside the game. Why are video games better for some language learners than movies? In video games, you are engaged actively, and there are visuals and cues that help you understand through context. You also won't have the need to pause often, which I found quite annoying when watching a movie or a show. It made me lose track of what they were talking about, and it was really annoying overall. Some things to take care of when you are playing video games is to play the right games. Play the types of games that I recommended. Don't play first-person shooters that are single player and don't have much dialogue. Don't play platformers that don't have much dialogue. This is quite obvious, but when I was a kid, I used to cope. I changed some games in German. I would play games like Apex Legends, not talk to anyone, just play and listen to the characters speak a little bit of German, but it was like, hey guys, I need a shotgun. I learned what shotgun is like in German, Schrotflinte, but that didn't help much for everyday conversation, right? I also played games like Sonic, which again is not very good for learning a language. And another thing to be careful about is to not get addicted, because games can be really addictive, especially if it's a game you really enjoy. Make sure you give it like a limit. For me nowadays, I have like only 1 hour of a video game for learning Japanese. I know I'm playing it because I am learning Japanese, not because I actually want to play a video game. Which, yeah, I mean, having fun is an additive, is good, but it's not the main focus of my gaming session. There are specific games for learning languages, but these aren't so common. I recently found out about a game called Influent. This game has a lot of languages available, and you have to do some challenges to find certain things inside a room or inside a house. I thought this concept was very original, and apparently this game was made in collaboration with the Japanese University of Tsukuba. Another game that probably all of you know is Duolingo, and recently it has added a new feature where it is like a game. For example, one of the Duolingo characters will ask you to look for something, and you will have to find it. I thought this was really interesting, and this can improve Duolingo. Some video games can also motivate you through their cultural insights. For example, in Spain, there is a very famous ROM hack of the Pokemon games for the Game Boy Advance. This game is called Pokemon Iberia. It's basically a Pokemon game that happens in a fictional region called Iberia, which represents Spain. It has a lot of cultural insights from Spain, from famous Spanish characters, famous Spanish shops, and also Spanish vocabulary. Another good game to learn Spanish is Grim Fandango. This game is set out in the Mexican culture of Aztec mythology. You're a travel agent called Manny Calavera, and you have to guide a client to their journey through peace. It's a point-and-click game, and it looks very fun. I personally haven't played it, but it looks quite interesting. Let me guys know if you have played this game before and if it's any good. Now for Japanese, it is much easier to get this cultural immersion. Japan is one of the top 3 producers of video games in the world. And this makes it easier to learn Japanese with video games. Some games like Shenmue really picture Japan's culture and scenery. When I was in Japan, I was like, wow, this looks literally like this game because it has so much from Japan. It has, for example, you can literally buy a gacha inside of the games. There are convenience stores inside the games. The scenery is pretty much like Japan. You have the placards of the names of people with Japanese characters. It's a masterpiece. Another game I recommend for Japanese learners are the Persona series, especially the latest Persona 5. It really captures Japanese high school life, and it also has a lot of insights on Japanese culture, and of course you have native speakers as well. I actually learned a lot of English myself playing this game in English, but I'm sure you can learn even more in the original in Japanese. At the end of the day, one of the most important things about learning languages, or anything really, is that you enjoy the process. We've been taught by school that language learning must be boring, and we've been taught this perfectionism from the start. Back then, I used to be bad at most subjects, but especially languages. When I was 12 years old, I thought I was just bad at languages, and I was doomed. Learning a language isn't just about learning a new means of communication. It's also learning about culture, other points of view, and a whole different worldview and lifestyle. It's one of the things that I enjoy the most, and I want to share this passion with you guys. I am Jose, and this is the channel called Language Glot, where I share a lot of language learning tips and interesting facts about languages. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and like, and see you in the next one.